year. So one of the reasons why we started the lecture series is during our annual event when we have a Komkesi, we generally have some really, really rich discussions, some really rich topics that are shared with the community. And we wanted to find a way or to have a way to kind of continue that conversation. So meeting with the board, we brainstormed and said, well, let's just do a lecture series which will allow us to engage the community in some additional conversations that we don't that we're unable to have during the course of the week-long event or weekend event that we had when we were meeting in person. So the lecture series was born out of wanting to continue the conversation in terms of sharing and presenting information to help us grow and just to understand the various aspects of a Khan culture or Kom culture as we have learned here in the United States. So with that said, I would like to welcome everybody for coming, for taking the time out of your day in order to share this information. I want to give a special shout out to our Komkesi board members. I see there are a few people from the board who are online. If you would like to say something, you're more than welcome to. I want to thank all the nanas that have attended, that are here, all the elders that have come out to witness this event. Thank you for your participation. So with that being said, I would like to have permission to start. Can someone give me permission to start?
Kwanzaa.
Thank you. I'm going to pour libation. So as you know, as part of the tradition, we want to welcome the shrines, the bosuns, and the ancestors to come witness what we're doing. So I'm going to pour libation with just that intent in mind. Agu, agu, agu. Nyakapon Trinapon Kwame and Sa, Asasaya and Sa, Hamna and Sa, and Subri and Sa, Ting and Sa, Paran Kessing and Sa, Benji and Sa, Dringa and Sa, and Shrep and Sa, Akatape and Sa, Bring and Sa, Moving and Sa, and the business of Tizo and Sa, Aquatiti and Sa, Yajak and Sa, Yasichi and Sa, Sambo and Sa, Yaja, Samo Sa, Musto Mon Sa, Quantan and Sa, Road to the Bak Quanta Sutan, Esutano and Sa, Fi and Sa, Pitu and Sa, Karendi and Sa, Brukum Sa, Pompon Sa, Jubini and Sa, Combo and a Tia Yabidins, no Tia Pontabidins, no Tia Frame Abidins, no Ori Abidins, no Quats Bidins, no Quats Criminals, no Mosi Bidins, no Mosi Qualabidins, no Mammy Waters Bidins, no Education Bidins, no Mucha Bidins, no Abiyabidins, no Tiba Bidins, Kajibu Bidins, no James Bidins, no Cabbage Azak Bidins, no New Bidins, no Tinga Bidins, no Tigre Bidins, no Muyina, Basum Bidins, no Muyina, Wonderoma, Yefreba, call your flare pim. If I call one, I call all. None of no mere comfort creation, no Atinga. I come to you this evening to say Madasi Pa for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us. I ask you to continue to walk with us, guide us, help us, and strengthen us in all the things that we do. For all the people who have come this evening to witness this presentation, allow them to be able to take something away from it that will help them, that will heal them, that will allow them to further their own spiritual development. And whoever's here, let them know we have no ill intent. We only come to share, and we come with a pure heart. And we want them to, if they have bad heart, bad thoughts, for their minds to be changed, and for us to be able to shake hands and walk away, and to be able to continue to grow and build. So we ask that all the bosuns, all the shrines, all the ones that work with us, guide us, help us, strengthen us in our daily lives, that you continue to work with us, guide us, and strengthen us. Allow everyone to be at peace and to be in good spirits. I say Madasi, Chamayaba, you okay, Alpha. All right, so let me share my screen. So this topic here is interesting topic in the sense that as people who practice traditional culture, this is something that we generally do not talk about, or we haven't as a community spoke about. There's probably been instances, but it's stuff that, we really haven't really talked about. So I wanted to bring this out, and I actually shopped around and asked some people, would they be interested in talking about this? And as the conversation went, as from talking with other people, it's a tricky topic. It's a touchy topic to talk about. So I elected to do it. I'm like, you know what, this is something that needs to be done. So I'm going to go ahead and do it. So for you guys that don't know me, I'm trained as a traditional healer to Suman Brafo, a Tinga. So a Tinga is out of the Tigray line, or has that same type of energy in terms of he's a witch catcher. He, as I was training, my teachers would always say, he was justice. He's the one that dealt with justice. He's the one that dealt with right and wrong, and that was his line. That's what what he does. So if anyone's familiar with the Tigray Bosums or the Tigray Shrine, the Tigray Sumans, they all fall in that category in terms of their witch catchers. They go out, or not necessarily go out. Well, they do go out, and they try to quell those individuals that wish to create disharmony within the environment or within the community. So having said that, I want to get too far into my discussion. My approach to teaching or to talking about this is I want to bring the physical to the spiritual. And to be honest, I'm not necessarily sure if there's really a big difference, but as we know, physical and what we consider physical based on what we've trained here, or what we've learned in this European society, as I'm growing and developing, that whole thing is starting to blur for me. So I'll give you a prime example. I'm trained as a chemist. So one of the things that's taught in every chemistry class is that you have an atom. In the core of the atom, you have protons and neutrons, and the things surrounding the atoms are electrons. Basic concept that everyone teaches, right? Yet the basic premise is that most atoms are mostly space. However, when you put these things together, you get an object that's solid, something that's hard, something that you touch, you chair, but it's consisted of atoms. So if atoms is mostly space, why would it be hard? So stuff like that, like, makes you think about it. So I'm a little heavy on the science side at first, but as we progress throughout the conversation, it'll transition into what I'm trying to explain. So the first concept I want to understand is that we have energy, and energy is normally transferred through waves. Okay, with the transfer of energies through waves, as you can see, this duck, if he was sitting on the lake, if the lakes, there's waves are going, the duck would be stationary, which would cause the duck to go up and down, and the waves would move, but the duck would not move. So that's the energy that's being transferred. So when we're representing waves, we represent waves in something that's called frequency or hertz. So this here is a representation of something that has 2 hertz. So this is the time that it went from 0 to 360, and then from 0 to 360 again. It took it in 2 seconds, it completed, in 1 second, it completed 2 cycles. So this here, we would say, has 2 hertz, all right? So the best way to think about it is think of a ball or a circle, and the time it takes to go from point A to go around and get back to point A. That's 1 revolution, 2 revolutions. So in 1 second, it went twice. We call that hertz or frequency. So with energy, energy has what we would call constructive interference and destructive interference. So if we have 2 things, 2 positive energies, when we combine those 2 positive energies, we get a bigger wave. So this here, where we say constructive interference, and we have these 2 waves that are combined, the resulting wave is bigger, right? We also have destructive interference. So we have a positive wave and we have a negative wave. When we combine them, they cancel each other out, and we get here, the resultant thing here is a flat line, or we call that destructive interference. They're canceling out each other's energy. So one way I like to think about this is to think about music. Everybody has their favorite song. When they hear it, they're like, oh, that's my jam. It puts you into a mood. It puts you into a certain frequency where you're, making you happy. Or it could be the exact opposite. You can hear a song that makes you sad. For me, for example, when my mom passed, Boys II Men, Mother was out. I guess it was around Mother's Day. So every time I hear that song now, I think about my mother. It triggers. But the vibrational energy that's associated with that causes a change, causes some type of energy to be released. All right. So here I have a visual representation of the electromagnetic spectrum. So as you can see, the electromagnetic spectrum is vast. This little piece over here is the UV, which we are able to see. And as you can see, you have red going to indigo, low frequency to high frequency. But as you can see, the amount of energy is vast. We're only looking at a very, very small part of that, which, keep that in mind as we're talking about this conversation. What we physically see is actually a small part of the energy that exists in the universe. Everybody with me so far?
Yes.
Yes.
So all right, so I'm a chemist. So one of the things that I wanted to show here is I wanted to talk about the energy. This here is called FTIR. So we have 3 different substances. We have heroin, cocaine, and sugar. They're all white substances. However, when we put this under infrared spectroscopy, which means we're shining light on this particular substance at a particular frequency, at a particular energy. When we put that energy on it, it gives us what's called vibration, and we're able to record that vibration. And when we record that vibration, it gives us this picture. Okay, so everything in the universe has its own frequency. Every substance has its own unique signature in terms of how it reacts and responds to energy. So if you look at these substances just off the plane, you would not be able to know. But the point that I want to make here is that they are responding to energy differently. The picture that we get from this is different. It's different, which allows us to be able to identify it. This is how we would identify the substance based on its energy signature. All right, so let me.
By advertising on YouTube,
can you guys
I grow
see
my
this?
business by reaching my most important customers. People like Allison. She's a
Yes.
fashion who's
Yes.
All right. So this here is an experiment in which they're using vibrations. They're using a plate that's vibrating at a particular frequency. When it's vibrating at this particular frequency, it is generating patterns. So you can go on YouTube and find this. All right, so let's go back here a little bit. So this is at 345 hertz. This is at 1,033 hertz.
We are only seeing the slide. We're not seeing the video.
Oh, that's what I was asking you. Did you see it? Okay, great. Okay. So you only see the slide and not the video. So let me stop sharing and let me share again. That's why I asked, did you see it? Let's go to home. All right, let's go back. All right, can you see that?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So this is at 345 hertz. Okay, so everybody gets the gist of this. As the frequency is increasing, the patterns are becoming more complex in terms of how they're representing. So it's the vibration, and these vibrations are creating patterns. Right, so you can go to YouTube if you want to watch the entire thing. But I wanted to, again, keeping with this theme of energy, showing what that looks like. So for us as part of a comb, drumming is one of the things. Drumming and singing is very, very, very important. So when we're drumming, calling down the bosums, we're actually creating a frequency that allows the bosums to come down. Well, for the most part, for the bosums to come down and be able to possess their traditional healer, whoever that might be, because of that energy that's created as a result of that environment. Let's go back to presentation. All right. So now, keeping with the theme of energy transfer. So we have this professor called Masuri Emoto. He is a Japanese professor, and he did some experiments where he spoke to water and then he froze it. So he said, I love you, thank you, said positive things, and then he said negative things. When he said positive things to the water, you see these beautiful crystalline structures. When negative things were said to the water, you have these ugly, deformed crystalline structures. Okay, so the thing that's being said is that energy that he's putting into that water, the water is capturing that energy. And as a result, when he freezes it, he can see what the result of that energy is. So you said you fool, and you see the crystal doesn't even look good. You have some polluted water here. Now, the beauty about this here is that he's doing this in Japanese. So if I was to do this in Japanese, if I was to do it in English, tree, whatever language, you would get the same result in terms of the crystalline structure, which tells me something about the intent of that energy being captured by the water. Is everybody with me?
Absolutely.
All right. So here is another example of the energy that's associated with the water. So we have the Atlantic Ocean on the bottom and the Pacific Ocean on the bottom of the slide. You have the Atlantic Ocean to the right, and you have the Pacific to the left. You have two bodies of water, but they are not mixing. They are two different colors, but it's water. The water has a spirit that's associated with it. Now, there's a technical explanation for why this doesn't happen, but the point I'm trying to make is this water is not combining with the other water, which you look at it, well, it's water is water. Water should be able to, but the consistency, the mineral content, a whole bunch of things that are happening, which creates a spirit for this water, which allows it not to mix. Here, this on the top left slide here, this is the Atlantic Ocean and the Caribbean Sea. The waters are not mixing. Here's another example. We have the Baltic Sea and the North Sea. The waters are not mixing. They're coming together, but they are not mixing. That is because of the energy that's associated with that particular water. So when we talk about sacred rivers and sacred bodies of water, that's something that really should be, well, I don't even say we know that it's something there just for the fact of the history that we have as traditionalists and people who practice the culture. We know there's something there, but here is a physical representation of that, seeing that. Okay, now, so this is just with water. So we're gonna take it a little step further. Here, how it's affecting living systems. There was an experiment that was done with a bunch of school-age kids. They had two identical plants. One plant was bullied, meaning the plant was told negative things, you suck, you ugly, blah, 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 whatever. And here we see the plant is looking horrible in terms of its growth. We have the same plant which was given affirmations. And you see how the plant is nice, full, and beautiful. So the words, the intent behind the words have something to do, the vibrational energy that's being thrown towards this plant. So here we have a direct correlation between your words and it affecting a living system, right? This is just an example. All right, everybody with me?
Yes.
Okay. So now, let's get into the spiritual aspect of it. So we have different types of spiritual energy. So this talk is about witchcraft. So Bai is the first one that you see here, and Bai is broken down into two types of witchcraft. You either have good or bad. You have our Bosuns, which is another type of energy, which we have personal, family, and state. We have the Sumans, we have Motia, and then we have the ancestors. And with the ancestors, there's 4 classifications of ancestors. And then we have bad spirit, or some people might call it chaos energy. So these are the types of spiritual energy that exist. We as traditionalists have focused mostly probably on the Bosun, the Sumans, which some of us call Bosuns, and Motia. And even we talk about the ancestors, we talked about the Nananum and Samafo, but we never really talk about these other ones, which is fine, but the type of spiritual energy that exists. So just like we showed that electromagnetic spectrum, and we just saw a small part of the UV, the visible spectrum, which we are able to see. There's a much, much larger spectrum of energy that exists. So this is the type of spiritual energy that that exists, that we are aware of. And maybe there's more. So I'm a learner, I'm a student. If I come across some new information, then I will surely share it. But this is what I've discovered so far as my research in terms of learning and even on my personal journey. All right, so what is a curse? A solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. It is energy with intent. So if I curse you, I'm wishing something bad on you. So we have this saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never harm me. This phrase came about around the 1800s. This phrase is a lie. Sticks and stones will break your bones, but words will harm you as well. So if you constantly tell someone they are ugly, you're stupid, that starts to have an effect on that person. This just recently, and we see it a lot now, where you had a person socially bullying on the internet, telling a person to go kill themselves because of whatever reason, and the person goes kill themselves because of the words that were directed at that person. All right, so look, I'm gonna take it back. So it said energy transfer. Storms or violent disturbances of the atmosphere with strong winds, usually rain, thunder, lightning, or snow, right? We transferring of energy. We're transferring energy from one thing to another. And then from scientists, we're saying you have a cold front and a warm front. And because of that, you have this transfer of energy. And as a result of that transfer of energy, you get this outburst, you get this rain, you get whatever it might be, because you are transferring energy, right? Okay. So now, I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is something that I came across. I think my wife sent me this. I don't know if it was from YouTube or from TikTok. So she likes TikTok, right? So, but here, this is a spike, a tongue spike that was placed on an enslaved woman because it was rumored or said that these women would utter a phrase and the enslaver would drop dead. It says, according to several captain logs, the women were said to have the power to speak enchantments that would cause slave takers to drop dead on the spot. So they silenced them and took away the language and demonized all indigenous forms of worship and ritual. Okay, so with these spiked tongues, they couldn't say anything because they had actually spikes, and I was trying to find one to give you a better representation of it, but I couldn't find anything. So that there is powerful in the sense that words have power. Words can do good and words can do bad. So knowing your words, knowing what you're saying, how you're saying it makes a difference. So being intent about your language is very good in terms of building up yourself and your character and helping you to manifest your destiny. Okay, so Bayi, which is witchcraft. So Bayi is defined as a neutral energy that exists in the world that can be used for good or bad. The energy conforms to the will of the user. So my brother Kwesi Konadu did a wonderful dissertation on traditional healers in the Bono. So a lot of this material that I got from my research comes from him. And I looked at other material, but it didn't feel right. The spirit didn't move me to use it because it just, as a lot of stuff that you will read, you know, you had Europeans that were trying to interpret our culture and they had they bent to it. So with his work, I feel totally confident that what he's saying is true. And then based on my experience and things that I've seen, I can have some level of verification. So, so an example of this, so we have a guns, hammer, nuclear power, knife. All these are weapons, all these are instruments, but the outcome of that instrument depends on you in terms of how you use it. You can use a gun and just shoot it up in the air. You can use a gun to kill someone. You can use a hunt. You can use a hammer to build a house. You can take a hammer and knock somebody upside the head. But it's all based on your intent. What are your plans to do with it? So I think that's key. So when we talk about witchcraft, we think about the good and the bad. Normally, we think about the bad because of the indoctrination that we have experienced here in America in reference to that. So with witchcraft, the practice of magic, especially for evil purpose, this is a definition that uses spells. It's more complicated than it was presented. The magic, the power, or apparently influence the course of events by using mysterious supernatural forces. Spell, an influence that can control the mind or character, fascination. Witchcraft is manifest by jealousy, envy, negative thoughts, gossip, bad luck, accidents, mental illness, and physical illness. The most common manifestation is sickness, accident, and death. So. All right, so what is defined as a characteristic of a witch? So when I'm saying this, I'm talking about a bad witch. Okay, so I'm talking about a person that's bad, a person who likes to gossip and create confusion, a person who enjoys hurting others, both physically, emotionally, and mentally, a person who abuses others, a person who secretly covets their neighbor, smiling in your face, stabbing you in the back, a person who is manipulative and secretive, a person who lies just for the sake of lying, a person with low morale, weak concept of right and wrong. Okay, so the characteristics of a person that have this. So some people might not even know that they are, for example, a witch. But these are some of the characteristics that would be exuded of such a person. So a major point that I need to make here is that bad witches use Bai for personal gain. They're doing something for personal gain. They're using it as a way of one-upping themselves over a family member. So the types of witches, we have witches that use their powers to help the family. We call juju or hoodoo or mystics. We have witches who use the powers to attack family members and seek personal gains. And then we have people that become seduced in witches. They aid the witches in creating this problems or to bring people to their covet so that they can do what they do. Okay, so this is a definition that, in my mind, witches create disharmony within the society. General blanket statement. So if you're trying to help your family, then you wouldn't fall under creating disharmony because you're trying to do something good. But in general, because of what we understanding, we have this disharmony that's created as a result. And a person who is a witch will create this disharmony and they'll thrive on it. All right. So one of the things that I want to make clear here, witchcraft, the bad witchcraft, is limited in its power in that it affects the family only. So Obayi, which literally means to take away or to remove a child. So in Ghana or in the traditional societies, you had chieftaincies and you had ascension to power. So siblings often would fight with each other or kill each other in order so that they can become next in line. So when they did that, they used witchcraft in order to eliminate their rival. However, folks can use shrines to throw medicine. This is the process of using an asuman to curse or punish. Okay, so you can use, and some folks do this. I don't advise it. The danger in doing this is that the shrine determines that the person is not wrong. What you send out will come back to harm you. So you have some traditional healers who will use their tools to do witchcraft. You have some traditional healers, and I personally witnessed this because even when my training, who I trained with, the way the training was done, this could happen, but the way it was done in a manipulative way so that it wouldn't come back to the person. But Abosuns do not engage in this type of activity. Okomfo, traditional healers, are forbidden from doing this type of work. An Okomfo is supposed to help heal the community. That is their job. That is the oath that they've taken during their training period. They're coming to be an aid to society, not to create disharmony. So their purpose and their role in society is to help. If you have a Okomfo that are abusing their position and doing these bad things, then they have to answer to their shrine eventually, and they will. Sometimes it's not pretty. And I'm sure there's some priests or traditional healers on this call that can probably speak to some of this. Okay, I'm sorry, go back one. All right, so today's witchcraft is made to seem chic, fun, and exciting, the European version. We have Charm, Vampire Diaries, we have all these movies that they have in today's society that glorifies witchcraft in terms of how it's produced. However, for us as Africans in the diaspora, when we engage in quote unquote our traditional practices, it's labeled as witchcraft, although it's not, and is made to be bad. So that's the contradiction that happens to it, in terms of how this material is being presented. All right. In America, we think of bad luck associated with witchcraft, but we can start thinking about it from a personal perspective. Many people are aware of negative energy, negative thoughts from family. So for example, I know like certain people I won't eat from, and I'm sure some of you are the same way. I'm just not eating their food because their energy is not good. I don't want that energy associated with me. I don't want that energy on me. There's certain people that they cannot do spiritual work for me because your character is not good. If I see you doing some things that are not correct, I'm not going to come and let you do spiritual work for me because you've already exemplified to me what it is that you are capable of doing. So I don't know if that's going to be a good fit. So, and I say that for information for people that are out there looking for a spiritual home, who's looking for a place where they feel comfortable with. Whoever that you're dealing with on that level, you need to also make sure that their character is solid so that they're not leading you in down the wrong path. Okay, so how do you combat witchcraft? Again, I'm talking about negative witchcraft. Let me go back. One, we want to surround ourselves with positive energy. Positive people, positive persons. people that's supporting you, and you have that gut feeling. You need to listen to it and understand it. Another way you can protect yourself against these things is spiritual baths. Talismans create a certain vibration. Doing purification rituals monthly, yearly, whatever it takes in order for you to go to the next level and to do the things that you want to be able to do. And then the other thing is to align yourself with Bosum for spiritual protection. So when a witch, a bad witch, knows this, they generally will stay away from you because they know that you're under the protection of a particular Bosum, a particular shrine. So they won't bother you, or they'll leave you alone, or they'll wait in the corner trying to wait to some crack in your weakness to determine whether or not they can attack you, whatever that might be. All right. So some of the sources that I use was Nana Amobwache. She stayed in Ghana for I think she did a dissertation for about 2 years. She's a Suo priest. And then the book that I use some Kwesi Konade's stuff as well. Then this book on the Motia by Gabriel Banner. I've actually used more books than this, but this is just some sources that I've used in terms of looking up information and trying to get a better understanding of what witchcraft looks like and how it is in modern times. So in general, here, what we're considering witchcraft isn't necessarily witchcraft, but in Ghana, it is alive and well. The things that were traditionally done in terms of still throwing medicine to stool ascensions and things of that nature is still very, very much prevalent. The big difference is that it's coming through the church now there. So you have people that are actually being accused of it, and it's not a very pretty sight. But in general, it is alive and well on so many levels. In traditional society, and here in America, what we are thinking of as witchcraft is really throwing of medicine through a shrine towards someone, which they would call duto. Or you have something that's called sum sum yari, which deals with spiritual sickness. So with that said, I would like to open up for questions and conversation around this topic. You can unmute yourself.
Welcome for Kwesi.
Yes, Nana.
Madasi Pa for your presentation. There's something that I often think about. They say that witches attack you when you're sleeping a lot of times at night because your sum sum travels.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm glad that you put that twist that witchcraft is not just negative. They're not just negative, it could be positive too. And on that note, I would say if everybody's sum sum is traveling, wouldn't there be a hopeful sum sum that's also traveling that will help do the work in addition to the abosum that are there to protect you and will protect you in your sleep when witches try to attack you, negative ones.
So are you asking me or are you making a statement?
I'm just asking,
Oh.
I'm asking for your opinion or the opinion of anybody who's on the
Yes, that I would agree with that. I think that that's definitely true. But as a spiritualist, one of the things, when you're going out doing that type of work is, well, I guess it's also part of your shrine, the shrine that does that. So for example, I know my shrine, I've had some really dreams where it was war and it was fighting and people were taken out spiritually in these dreams. So I'm saying that depending on the shrine that you're working with and the bosum that you're dealing with, whether or not, that's their thing in terms of what they do. So, but yes, staying, medicine up and doing your rituals and the things that you need to keep your stuff strong, to keep those things off you is like really, really critical.
Okay.
If especially when that's your function, that's what you do. So people are always after you when they're trying to come at you for whatever reasons.
Well, Pacho, thank you, Nana Kwesi, for the excellent presentation. Just comment on the last question, in terms of precautions that one can take is, like if you have a bodria, you can simply, say your libation on the bodria and just put it under your pillow while you're sleeping. Ask your gods to protect you while you're astral traveling, doing your work. But I also had a question with Nana Kwesi, just from the standpoint of physics. Clearly, what you're talking about, this has to do with the manipulation of energy, with a particular intent, or infusing intent into the energy. So my question is, I was wondering from not a metaphysical standpoint, but from from a chemist standpoint or a physics standpoint, how could you just elaborate on the nature of energy? Why is it so malleable? And does energy, my question is, I guess more specifically, or along with that, does energy have a consciousness in and of itself? In other words, it sounds like you're saying energy is just neutral. It will obey you. It has no morals, so to speak. Is that a true characterization of energy? Or does energy, considering the fact that everything is created by God Almighty, does it have some laws, some morality laws that it must adhere to?
The energy has laws, yes, but in the sense that it can only, if you're looking at it from its purest sense, then yes, there is no morality, there is no right and wrong. It's manipulative in terms of how you're doing it. But for example, I can't expect green to be red. That is the nature of green. Green is green, red is red. I can't do anything to change that. So in that sense, it's defined in terms of what it is. But how I decide to use it with my intent, then I can manipulate it, understanding its character.
Understood. So it just sounds like it's like clay. You can it's malleable. You can make it into any shape you want, and it has to obey the person who is the person who's doing the manipulation. And in this sense, it seems like we as human beings are creating events. In other words, I guess, we're sort of emulating the creator, in that we are creating events through the manipulation
of energy. Yeah,
right.
To a degree. Yes, to a degree, yes. The only thing is you don't have the knowledge of Anyame, so it becomes dangerous when you try to play God. So, okay. Sister Abena, you had a question, your hand is raised.
Yes, Nana no Majo. First, I wanted to thank you for actually leading this topic. I think it's a very, very important topic. I also wanted to thank you for highlighting this idea of what people think is witchcraft is actually not witchcraft, true witchcraft as it is defined in our tradition. And for also talking about the self-care things that we can do every day and help others to learn how to do in terms of how to deal with life. As an Okonfo, what I have found is that a lot of people come because they're experiencing challenges in their life, and life is challenging, right? And self-care is necessary. And there are a lot of things that everyone can do every single day to move energy. And the same way we cleanse ourselves physically, it is very important as spiritual beings that we also take care of our spiritual health. And the ease in which we remove that energy prevents the buildup. I also love, as a person who loves science and math, I love the approach to help people to understand conceptually energy. So I just wanted to thank you around all of those things. I wanted to spend a little bit just talking about the role of the Okonfo in the community, right? Because I feel like that is so important, and especially in relation to this concept, when we're talking about energy, that the role of the Okonfo is to bring things back in balance, to be able to identify when things are not in alignment and to bring them back in alignment. And I think that many times, you know, in everything that is done, sometimes that's not highlighted because it is those simple, small adjustments that happen that can actually clear the road for someone, provide insight to help them, and even ourselves from having such hardships. And this concept of words, power, and sound, right? The vibration, everything that we say and do has an effect. And really understanding from energetic perspective, the power of that. So I just wanted to highlight that, and I'm enjoying it. Well done.
So I think I had said before when I was talking to Nana Fori in terms of like making baths. So making baths and then saying a different prayer and the bath having a total different effect. And as a scientist, like I've said this many a times, I'm always fascinated by like, wow, that's like so different, you know, and then the effects, like, you know, making a spiritual bath that will have you ready to fight, and then making a spiritual bath that's like you're ready to go to sleep. You just like gotta go. And I'm always amazed at the work. Like, wow, that's something. And I still can't get my head around it. I mean, it's just fascinating to me because from a European training, you always want to know the mechanism of action. Like, how did that happen? What was going on? But some of the stuff you just can't explain, but you know the results of it when you see it, when you've seen what was done, when you experience it. So this whole thing is fascinating in terms of just how strong and powerful our culture is and the things that's there. And we're awakening to that and learning about it. So I just pray that we can unify ourselves to benefit our community as a whole.
Mipacho, you were talking about making baths, and we then understand why it's so important that when we're, as an Okonfo, if you're making a bath for somebody and you're trying to lift their spirits, that they need to hear it, because that's how we're transferring the energy from what we're saying, which is positive, that is going into the bath that they're going to take, but it's also going into their ears so that they might hear it, and it will lift them in many, many ways that way.
True. Sister Nancy.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you for the presentation. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this presentation. I'm not initiated in your particular spirituality, but I'm coming from a metaphysical and scientific point, and I thank you so much for breaking that down, because I work with crystals and I normally have to explain to people on a molecular level what that energy is. And so just wanted to share, and for your thoughts, because in my mind the whole universe is electricity and magnetism. So when you're talking about the atoms and the space, do you think that space is actually that electromagnetic pull which causes the alignment of the different neutrons, protons, and electrons in terms of how things get formulated. Also, when you were talking about water, you know, we are 75% water. So when we're talking about vibration and frequency, everything in this universe is vibration and frequency. So going back in terms of intention and what we say and how we say it, even when we're praying or even when we're doing baths and saying those prayers over the baths, we're actually connecting sometimes to the soul group. Everything has a soul group and a frequency to pull those energies or release those energies into those baths to give them more power. And there's a book that's called The Cosmic Serpent. It's about the DNA origins of the known by Jeremy Narby. Just wanted to share with everyone. And he actually spent years with the shamans, and he was trying to figure out how is it that they're able to use ayahuasca and connect with spirit, from the spiritual to the physical. I mean, as we all know, the seven, spiritual laws that everything at the end of the day abides by, as above, so below, and so forth. So what he was getting at energetically is that since everything is frequency, when we call on it, even with the drumming and singing, because those things allow the spirits to come to be aligned with, and us to be aligned with spirit, especially even when we're fasting as well, because that increases the rate, the vibratory rate that we carry to be able to, you know, when we're clean and less dense, to communicate with spirit. But when the spirit touches us, or if we get possessed by the spirit, what may be happening is that the energy from that plane is connecting to our DNA, which also has a crystalline frequency. And so because of the electromagnetism and aligning with that, then we're able to pull in. It's almost like a voltage, you know, changing your voltage from 220 to 110 or whatever it is, or vice versa, to be able then to encapsulate higher frequency or God's spirit, or by whichever name. So I just wanted to share those things and just throw them out there.
Okay, thank you. Your first question in terms of what with the atoms and the energy, what would, say that again? What we asked?
The space, yeah, the space thing that you said, that it's empty space. When you said that, what clicked in my mind was that maybe it's electromagnetic, because a lot of times in life when we don't, or with science as it grows, when we don't know anything, we call it like just junk, like the same thing, the concept of junk DNA. But everything has a purpose, and just because we don't understand it, or it seems like if there's nothing there, there really is something there that we just can't understand at this time.
Yeah. So I mean, even scientists, I'm putting in quotation, air quotations, have defined that the universe is 90% dark matter, but you can't see it. According to what we've known, the universe is supposed to have a particular weight, but you only can account for 10% of it. So 90% of something that you cannot see exists. So we call it dark matter now. So I mean, but yeah, it's fascinating. Konfo Kwabena.
Hey, brother, a fantastic presentation, brother. And when you were talking about just the energy, you were showing the sister that was had the spiked shackle on her head, and then the fear of the slave master, the Africans using the words of power. I guess what came to my mind was the movie Sankofa, and in the very opening scene when they had the sister was up on that big wooden post, and the pregnant sister, and Noble was one of the head Negroes was whipping her, and Nunu and the other sisters were by the post, and they were, I guess, saying the words of power and the chanting, and how Noble fell over. And so that movie, I guess that was like my very first instance of watching and observing, in real time, words of power, and looking at how useful those types of situations were, in the resistance movement, on the plantations, on the Maroonages, as Africans were seeking their freedom in the maroon communities all throughout, America and Central and South America. And I guess just looking at taking a step further, looking at white supremacy and domination as witchcraft. And now how we've got to be able to now use the words of power and that technology to bring our people back to their right minds, as well as the sister was saying, come for avenue of restoring the balance and order. So this presentation really has struck me in several different areas, brother, and thank you for putting it together. Medasta.
No problem. Nana Kofi, you're up.
I'll defer to come for Alma Vital. She had her hand up for me.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm just going in order. So come for Alma.
Actually, this is
good evening. We're here together.
yeah.
Okay.
Actually,
Raffo has something he wants to add.
Okay. First of all, it's a great presentation, a lot of good information. But I want to ask you about the idea of a good witch, particularly when we understand it as Nana Ama Willock explained, that witchcraft often has a greater portion of its activity as sleep activity. And one of the things that I was concerned about in hearing that is that everyone might define themselves as a good witch, of course, and I think it's probably important to understand that even as you mentioned the idea of energy as a gun, it could be used good or bad, but there is a proclivity of certain types of energy. Like, for example, a gun is dangerous, point blank. Mm-hmm. And you want anyone dealing with a gun to have a certain level of not only training, but character and discipline. And so just the idea, of a good witch, I think I in my studies of witchcraft, I understand the construct, but as I understand it, it's not even worth, mentioning, because people will slide themselves into that category, and really they're not trained for the weapons, if you understand what I'm saying. Well, so what are your thoughts on that?
Well, one, as a witch, first of all, most people don't know that they are witches, whether they're good right. or bad. They would not be able to define themselves. So a person defining themselves as a witch is probably a no-no from the start. So if you're saying I'm a good witch, I don't even know what that means, because most witches won't know that they're witches.
Right.
So, yeah, in reference to, I think our conditioning and what we've been fed over the years, it makes it difficult, because I don't think of witches as good. I just don't. I'm saying that because I don't, because of my conditioning. It's a bias. Like when I think of a witch, I'm thinking of a bad person, period. Right. I don't necessarily think of a witch as good, but I'm mindful that you do have people, and this will probably be more so back in Africa, who is probably doing it and bathing it. They probably know about it and bathing their family with the medicines and things of that nature. But here, I just don't, the concept is hard for me to grasp as well, in the sense that I don't necessarily think of witchcraft from a positive perspective. I understand the use of it, and it can be used good, just like the shrines can be used for good or bad, but the proclivity is that they are used for good. And if you do use them for bad, there's a consequence for it, but you're going to have to bear that consequence. So, but my general thought is I think of I don't necessarily, I'm not, my default is negative because of my conditioning.
Right.
And I'm, it's a growth thing. So I'm growing in terms of understanding that there are good witches, but yeah, so I'm growing on that concept.
Right. Just to close out, I would say that there's a movie that I like. I think it really explicates and demonstrates how witchcraft is formed and how it functions, and then really what has to happen in terms of that issue, in terms of good witch, bad witch, of letting go of something that you think is useful to you, but when it's no longer useful to you, it has to go. And that's the movie is The Life of Pi.
The Life of Pi.
The Life of Pi. The Life of
Pi.
Pi. Life of Pi.
Okay.
Yeah, it's the basis of the movie is an Indian boy and his journey with his family. But I think that movie really demonstrates, how it formulates, and really, like I said, how it has to go once it's reached its usefulness. And when I do talks in terms of my discipline of psychology, oftentimes I'm talking about these things, but most of the time to my audience, I really can't say what it is that I'm actually talking about. And when I talk about trauma and things like this, often I'm talking about how witchcraft is formed and how it functions. And but I like that movie because it kind of demonstrates that. So I just want to add that. I appreciate your comment. I appreciate you bringing this topic to the community. Appreciate it. But that's
no problem. Nana Abena.
I think Nana Kofi was still waiting.
Oh, I'm sorry. I think he came up after you, but okay. Nana Kofi.
All right. Yeah, I'm just reflecting on what was just said. I have to go back and look at that movie, Life of Pi. I have to review that again. Okay, but so I just wanted to further this or get deeper into this discussion on what was said about a person not being aware that they're a witch. Now, it kind of reminds me of an experiment. Excuse me, an experience I had one time when I was in Ghana. I'm gonna kind of give a brief summary of what happened. I was at my shrine village, and I was there, and this young lady came in to greet me. She did, my first impression when I saw her was like she had a beautiful aura, very beautiful smile, very kind, generous energy. But before that trip was over with, she attacked a close friend of mine, and the next thing I knew, everybody was calling her a witch, and the brothers had to tackle her and handcuff her because she had become overcome by witchcraft. I mean, she just, it's like I had heard about this kind of thing can happen, but it was the first time I saw it with my eyes. The same person being wrestled down to the ground by a number of males and handcuffed at the instruction of the head priest that was present. Could we talk about that in terms of someone being a witch but not being aware that they're a witch?
Okay. So, I mean,
I'm just sharing an observation.
Oh, okay.
That was a situation where a person probably, if you ask them, they would probably say they're not involved with witchcraft at all. But she was overpowered by witchcraft to carry out a very evil deed.
So from my training in terms of how I understand when the shrines go out to capture a person that's a witch, the person normally has to confess whatever it is that they've done in terms of whatever those things done that they've done. They normally will give them a chance to repent from whatever they've done. And then if they reoffend, the shrine normally kills them. So in this instance of this sister that you're talking about, that did something and they started calling her a witch, the people were calling her a witch, which is probably something that's common for people to do there in Africa. But I guess my question would be to you is what happened with the shrine consultation? How did that go? What did the shrine say in reference to this particular issue? And then that's when it becomes official for me. So people can say she's a witch, or he's a witch, or whatever. But the authority for me would be, what did the shrine say?
Well, my understanding in that particular instance is that they recognized that she was just possessed by an evil demon, so to speak. Okay. And the outcome of the whole thing was that they, how would you say, they, how would you say, they restored her, I guess you could say, because after that, I saw her in her normal state, and but she was always accompanied by two priests, like they were constantly monitoring her. And the next trip I came back, she's still there, and I keep an eye on her, and she seems to be a good person, but I'll never forget what happened. It was like, from my perspective, and I don't know for sure, but it seemed like something kind of came over her. In other words, another entity was able to overcome her consciousness and make her do something.
Yeah, well, I mean, you do have evil spirits, so, and that's real too, and they do possess people, and they generally get captured and exiled. So it could be one of those things. You have Sasa Bonsam, that's an evil spirit, and it's chaos energy, and it lives up to its name, to create chaos. So it could, in that instance, be a case of a bad spirit, and that could have been a bad ancestral spirit or whatever that's creating havoc. So you do have those instances. So, using the word witch, it's, with this stuff, it's very specific in terms of the case. So what's the case? Let's get down to the case. Let's get to the shrine in order to understand what's really going on, as opposed to just a generalization. So seeing it on the surface, it might look one way, but it could be something different. So, but look, I had a brother, Baba K, ask a question. Any thoughts about energy of water that we drink? Are there traditional rituals or practices for cleansing or energizing drinking water? So, Baba K, I'm going to share with you something that Nana Duku Mankosa shared with me, which I actually started doing it, is before I consume my water, I will pray over it. And when I pray, I'm giving that water my intent. Please cleanse my body, make me strong, hydrate my cells, and I consume it. So based on your question, you can pray on the medicine. You can pray your prayer, your thoughts, your intent into that water to give it the energy that you want it to have. So yes, you can do that. You said, are there traditional rituals or practices? Not that I'm aware of, but I do know you can do that. So try it. When you're drinking some Perrier water or Poland Spring or whatever, before you consume it, say a small prayer over it. What's your intent? What do you want the water to do? And then consume it, and then see what your results are. Nana Ama, you had a question? Or your hand was raised?
Yeah. Did he come in?
Yeah. Oh, Rocco?
Yeah, I was just wanted to follow up with something Nana Kofi was saying, or just you had asked him a question about whether the young lady had confessed. And I think that was important. I didn't hear his answer to that, I don't think, because I think that's important to understand, and whether she knew what her level of knowledge of what the activity did.
That she did, yeah.
Well, in that particular case, I just don't know. I was not. I don't know whether she did or not. You know, I wasn't privy to exactly what happened. All I know is that she was put under the care of a particular priest, and they just observed her and monitored her every movement for quite a period of time.
When I was in Ghana, when I was doing my training, we had a witch that was captured by the shrine, and the person, they had her chained to a tree. She was there for a while. I mean, I was a Kung Fu, so I really didn't understand what was going on, but I did witness that happening, and I mean, it was actually sad. I mean, it was actually sad seeing this woman chained to a tree like an animal, but that was the reason. You know, she had, you know, done some things that were out of control as far as the community was concerned, and you know, she needed to be dealt with. Nana Abena, you're up.
Yes. So I wanted to just mention, because this is such a powerful conversation and is really deep. I wanted to mention the importance of us all understanding the cosmology of our tradition and the different types of spirits that exist. Because the same way someone can be possessed by a Bosum or Motia, it's the same way someone can be possessed by a delayed spirit.
Mm-hmm.
And it happens in the same way, and people do not have functioning control over their body.
Mm-hmm.
Also, too, that in our tradition, divine law is the final law.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of times when cases are brought to the shrine, it's not the priest that make the determination. It is the shrines that make the determination. And we will see in our tradition that when someone has violated or things have happened, you violated a taboo or whatever, there's very little remorse that happens. People will miss that person if they just so happen to be killed by the shrine, but everybody understands what has happened and why such and such has happened. And so that ends up being the final decision, and it is accepted as that in terms of it being a final decision. When we take a look at the different types of shrines, these family groups of shrines are there to keep the order and the peace and the harmony within the community. And so I think it's very, very important to understand, like somebody had made a comment about the gun and the gun being loaded. Each and every one of the shrines that we have in our house is a loaded gun, right? So when you train to be in a konfo, no matter what kind of a konfo, you have to understand the tools in which you're working with, the spirit in which you're working with, and how you are guiding that energy to be able to support the community. And when you begin to understand how to be able to move and making sure that you don't become a hired mercenary, that the person who comes to you and says, oh, my Paucho, this is what happened, and so did this to me, and such happened to me.
She froze. Can you hear me? You froze, sis.
And your stability and grounded in your foundation to you're trying always to harmony, that you're actually not becoming that mercenary doing something when it wasn't what was needed to be done to bring harmony in that situation. During my time, many times in Ghana, I've seen a lot of different ways in which instability has been brought back to balance. And sometimes it's a case in bringing people together in a conversation, and it's about healing and different memories are given. And sometimes it is more serious. And there are times in which people are taken out just like that. Even priests are taken out just like that. And that is the moral code in which not only we live by, but the people in the community understand and they live by. But this idea, and I see it in other traditions in which I'm a priest in, this idea of the need for exorcism or removal of bad delay spirits that people pick up is so important. And this idea of making sure that people understand how to clean themselves, how to clean their houses, how to clean their family, how to pray over themselves is so important, just to make sure that you can maintain, as you're walking in the world, that you're not picking up stuff and bringing it back in your home. And there's small little things that we need to make sure we are practicing actively to in order to keep that balance and more communication with just the regular community around that. Because there are so many times where people have negative spirits with them and they don't have no idea. And they're walking around, and because it's a weight that they've been carrying so long, they don't even realize that that situation is there, creating problems for themselves. And some of it can be called witchcraft, and some of it is you just stepped in shit, pardon my language, and you just didn't clean up and you brought it home and you've been carrying it a long time. Nobody sent it to you, nobody wanted something bad for you, but you just need to be cleaned properly so that this way you can be your full self.
So I'm glad you said that. So for example, with my shrine, like when you come for a consultation, it's not me that's telling you what's going on. The shrine comes and possess, right? And you're talking directly to the shrine. I don't want nothing to do with it. Whatever the shrine tells you to do, it's between you and the shrine. Whether you decide to do it or not, it's okay with me one way or the other. I'm a vessel in terms of how this thing goes down. But you have people, and like you're saying, in terms of being a mercenary, people come to you and they Paucho, I need you to do this, and you becoming a mercenary, you're doing the will of these people. You know what? The shrine's going to tell you what you need to do, clean it up, whether you decide to do it. Like with my particular shrine, you can't come back twice with the same problem. Going to come, I'm going to tell you what you got to get done, do it, but you can't come back. You can come back and say thank you, but you can't come back and say I still got the problem, because it doesn't work like that. Some shrines, you can go back with the same problem 1,000,000 times. My shrine, you cannot do that. So, but you don't want to be a mercenary. You don't want to just do stuff haphazardly and be able to be like, yeah, keep doing. No, that's not good. And then, like you said, the shrines, you could do some stuff, but the shrine, the priest, the konfo is the person who's accountable. And if they're using the tools wrong, these shrines are wicked. I mean, I'm not saying wicked. They're serious. They're dangerous in the sense that, like, you have a loaded gun. There's divine law. That is real. There is levels to this stuff. So people want to play around and think this is some fashion show stuff. No, this is some serious stuff, and we are just getting this exposure based on our learning. But this is some deep, heavy stuff, So, and I'll give you a little short story. Even with the formation of a Kom Kesi, there were a lot of people who did not want this to happen, but my spirit would not let me rest in terms of getting this done. This is what was told to be done. So I can't sleep at night. I'm getting beat up. I'm having all types of issues, not obeying the spirit. Like this, you got to do this. You got to get this thing done. It's tough, man. This is not lollipops. Go ahead, sis.
Yeah, so I just wanted to share an experience that I had just last year when I was in Ghana in November. So I'm at the shrine, and one day on a shrine day, we were there and clients were coming. And one of the persons, I didn't even recognize him because this person had changed, body changed, lost a lot of weight, looked completely different. So we're sitting there, the shrine is down, and the shrine house that I'm at is a Suman Brafo shrine house. And so I'm there, and the person is coming, begging, pleading for his life. And you know, of course, I'm listening, trying to understand exactly what the case is. The man is there and he's like, oh, you know, I need help with this. Can you please? I'm having this problem. I'm having that problem. I'm having this problem. I'm having that problem. And the shrine begins talking and laughing. It's like, now you want me to come and help you. You came here for me to come and help you. Isn't there something you need to do first? And the man goes on and he starts talking about, oh, I'm sorry. And he starts telling the story. This man who came as a client actually was hired, he's in a comfort, was hired by someone else to do bad work against the priest's house that he had stepped in to ask for help. So he had to repent and say, oh, I'm sorry. I know I was hired to kill you last year. They pressured me and they told me all of these things. Now I need you to take this weight that's off of me because now I'm ill. I'm having this problem. I'm having that problem. When I tell you, my mind was like, oh my goodness. So, you know, this concept of, you know, priests taking cases and doing work against someone because someone has come and did something and played their case and said whatever, and not understanding that you carry that weight when you take on something and it is not the thing that has been divine that needs to happen. We should be very mindful of the things that we step into. And that in order for this hardship, these illness, health problems, all of these blockages, he had to come to the shrine that he tried to kill, the priest he tried to kill, to ask for help in his healing and his salvation. And so I'm adding that to say that even in all of that, there was love. Even in all of that, of course, it was embarrassment for the man, but even in all of that, there was love, because the shrine didn't hold the animosity that the Okomfo would have. Because I know the Okomfo very well. The Okomfo would have said, hell no, I'm not doing this work. But the shrine actually found a way to make appeasement and make a balance, but warned the man that if he ever did something like this again, next time he won't have a chance to travel all the way here to beg for an issue. And started singing songs about how people think they can just go and do whatever they want because they are Okomfo. It was a very, like, to sit and witness the case was a very, very mind-blowing experience, because we hear all of these things, but to see it in practice and to know that even in our culture, there is opportunity for forgiveness, and that people who even know better, even people who know better still make mistakes. And there's so many people who never get that chance to come back around. But when I think about how patient the shrines are with us, even here in America, as we are learning and growing in our tradition, right? How we are learning more, how we are doing more, how we are manifesting more, how we're supporting each other more. They've had to be patient with us in our infancy as we are growing in our tradition. But to even see there the levels of patience, knowing that there is no tolerance for this, right? Across the board, there is no tolerance for witchcraft. There is no tolerance for people just going around and doing what they want to do. And that even a high Okomfo will have to, he can't do work around coming to the place that he is offended in order to get relief. His issue sent him right back there.
That's crazy. It's deep.
It's deep.
All right. Are there any more questions? I mean, this is a heavy topic, so I know you guys are probably a little shy. This is a heavy topic. It's really a heavy topic.
I didn't raise my hand. Oh, go ahead, Nana Amadama.
I'm sorry, I didn't even raise my hand. Nana no me paucho. I don't have a question. I just want to thank you for your courage to address this subject, because you said you tried to get someone else to do it and you couldn't. So thank you for your courage. This is a really important conversation that's been had. So thank you, Madasi Pa.
Thank you, Nana.
Nana Crazy, I don't know if there is an answer to this question, but we are calling it witchcraft. And my curiosity is this what is really called, like traditionally, way back in the day before the Europeans came and gave us definitions for things that they didn't understand, or tried to define what we had based upon their worldview? Perhaps there wasn't, quote unquote, witchcraft, but the idea that there is good and there is bad, because that is a balance, and that's why they are so compassionate with dealing with people who deal with the bad, because you have to learn from that. That's a way that you learn as well. So I'm wondering if it really wasn't called, quote unquote, witchcraft, that's not how it was defined.
So for Europeans, I mean, anything that we did as traditionalists, they labeled it as witchcraft, as a way of putting the negative thing so that you could lose your power. But what I'm describing, or what I'm saying here, what actually witchcraft is something that's really limited to the family. What we are considering witchcraft here is sum sum yari, which is spiritual sickness, when you're using a shrine in order to do bad things. So with European culture, they took everything that we did and called it witchcraft. So if it was traditional, whatever it is we was doing to help ourselves or whatever, they just called it witchcraft. It became banned. You can't do that voodoo stuff or hoodoo or whatever it was. So, but witchcraft from a traditional perspective is limited to family use. So in America, what we are dealing with is dutos, throwing of medicine or stepping into medicine, like someone puts medicine in front of your door and wish you bad and you step into it, or they throw the medicine at you to wish you harm or something like that. And then you're from the Caribbean, so, and I don't know if anybody else from the Caribbean, because they call it obia down there. Is anybody else from the Caribbean here where they have the obia, where they call it? But even from there, from my understanding, the obia wasn't necessarily always bad. It was something that was good as well.
That's right.
So, yeah.
Hey, do you mind if I add in something?
Yes. What's
So
up, brother Cloud?
Hey, how you doing?
What's how you doing?
I'm doing fine. Since you mentioned Caribbean, so I'm from Haiti, and so in Haiti, I'm not a adept at Haitian voodoo, even though I'm from Haiti. But you do have voodoo workers, shrine workers, who specifically are for healing. Then you have the Bokor, who are all to secret society, and they're the ones that will do all of the negative kind of stuff, quote unquote, right? They're the ones that you go to, and the Bokor they're the ones that will make the zombies. They're the ones that will, give the poison to somebody, to poison a family, somebody else's house, or destroy somebody's land. So you have the Bokor and you have the Hugan. So the Hugan is specifically only healing, basically. The Hugan will not be doing it. You come to a Hugan, they will not do any negative work. But the Bokor, now again, this is not a set rule, right? You can easily have a Hugan who's like who's doing some crazy stuff too. But in general, the Hugan does the positive work, and the Bokor does the underground secret work that people will go to do destructive stuff. And the Bokor have specific deities that they work with to do that kind of work.
Okay, cool. That's good. There is a video. I think Nana Dooku actually posted it on her on Ghana cultural thing, where they had showed the Ashanti chieftaincy, and there was a guy who wanted to become a chief, and he went to the Tano Bosun for him to do some bad work, and the Tano Bosun beat the dude up. They told him, don't ever come here again in terms of being able to do this work. But that video, it's on YouTube, so I forget the name, but it was like about the Ashanti Kingdom, Asante Kingdom, and it was talking about the work and how, the chieftaincies and all type of stuff. But this one gentleman who wanted to ascend to the throne was going to the shrines to do, wanting to do the work, to do some bad work so that he could get rid of one of his brothers. But the shrine, immediately when he came to him, he beat him down. I'm like, yo, don't come here again ever with that, or I will kill you. I mean, some serious stuff. So if you guys get a chance, I definitely recommend you watching it. It's in Tree, but it's subtitled, but it's very good as well. So Is there anything else? Anybody have any additional questions or comments they would like to make? If not, I would like to thank everybody for coming out, spending a part of your time with us. Our next lecture series will be in May. Nana Brafo Kwao is going to be actually doing that presentation. Nana Brafo, you there?
Yeah.
You want to give folks a preview of what you're going to be talking about in the next.
Well, first of all, I thought it was gonna be June. It's not June. It's May.
It's April. It's June. I'm sorry. June. Yeah, every other month. So it's June. Yes.
Because I was like, I still got to get things together. But basically, we'll be talking about epigenetics. But we'll talk about some of the things that you talked about in terms of the nature of the spirit, or our composition, that God gives us when we come, and how the Sum Sum and the Okra and how those things are composed from a traditional standpoint. And then we'll get into a little bit of biology and genetics, and how this new construct or newer construct of epigenetics relates to our experience here in America in particular, and particularly as it pertains to trauma. So that's what I'm going to be trying to put together, and it may have some correlates with what we're talking about tonight.
Cool, thank you. And then Akonfo Kwabena, are you still on the line? Is he still on the line? All right, I think he might have gone. Okay. All right then. Well, as always, want to thank everybody again. If any of the board members want to say anything before we close out for today? Don't be shy, guys.
This is Nana NC. I just want to once again just thank you for an excellent presentation, and I want to thank everybody for the excellent conversation that came up from this topic. It was really important to share. Madasi.
This is Yao Tyus. Great job, everybody.
Well, thank you, everyone. Appreciate you, and we look forward to seeing you at our next event or our next lecture. We are having a Komkesi this year will be in Florida, so we will have a virtual component as well for those who are not coming. Nana Kweku Sechi and his family are hosting. Nana Sechi, are you available? You want to say a few words? If you're there, August 5th, 6th, and 7th. So you can go to our website, aconcenter.org, to register if you would like to attend, or you want to come down. It should be really, really good. So we're looking forward to seeing all the participants. And again, thank you for your time and energy.
Greetings, Nana. I'm here.
Hey, Nana, how are you?
Fine. How are you?
I'm doing great. No complaints.
Got a nice presentation, Nana. Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Do you want to say a couple of words? I mean, you're very knowledgeable in a lot of this stuff.
Well, I think it's been wonderful. Enjoyed, and definitely, yes, we're waiting, anticipating when you come in town with, for the celebration and everything. So we have been talking about it and getting ready for that. But I think, what the path I see, things are going on wonderful, and I have to congratulate you for the nice presentation and the work you're doing, and the support everyone is giving you to do that. So pretty much I'll leave it at that. But congratulations, Nana.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, guys, good night. Have a great one. And again, thank you all, and look forward to seeing you at our next event. Thank you.
Thank you. Good night,
Thank
everyone.
you.
Good night.
Good night.